'Tis the season to read and renew. Here are my top 10 book recommendations in order of autumnal energy output. We all know big HBL at this point. Honestly, politics aside, as far as pulp fiction goes, he's aight. Is this his best work? I mean, have you read it? It's down to your opinion, man. Am I being vague on purpose, in the same way Mr. Lovecraft throws out interesting and weird ideas and refuses to elaborate on them too much? I actually think this works to the book's advantage, and it might be one of the reasons why his stories still resonate today. You don't read Lovecraft for the characters or the plot. This is a vibes kind of book. I do wish it gotten more into the 6-foot-tall albino blind penguins. The lack of penguin representation is the one gripe I have about the whole weird fiction subgenre. 9 out of 10. Cinematic parallelisms, Batman. So hear me out. A professor from a prestigious university travels to a cold and isolated place as a part of their research into occult lore. Encyclopedia of Fairies is part of a series, so if you like the first one, you might be into the other two that are out right now. The novel has this intimate, cozy feel to it, while still being adventurous. One thing that I can promise about this one is that if by the end of it, you don't want to be Emily's friend, I will personally give you back the money you paid for the book. Simply send me your address and leave your front door open at night. That being said, 5 out of 10, no penguins. Let's keep it academic, shall we? In this case, I'll tell you something that the other booktube fellas won't. If you can't read Italian, you aren't actually missing out too much here. You should of course strive to consume media in its original language because of the implication. But William Weaver does a fine job. This novel is also notorious for having a confusing start and being full of weird cultural references and overall being a bit of a chore. I'm here to tell you, everything will be explained within the book itself. Just power to the beginning. Having a cursory knowledge of the topics at hand will help, however. So, if you are already interested in topics like Italian history, the Catholic Church, and 19th century literature, you will in fact get a little bit more out of this one. This is also one of those books that get better if you come back for a second read. Kind of like a good M. Night Shyamalan movie. 10 out of 10, praise John Lennon. So Mr. Stephen King says this thing is the greatest horror story in English. I think for one that we do owe at least a bit of respect to our forefathers, and in this case, context is important. R.T. McCahan was apparently good friends with Aleister Crowley and hung out in the same circles. So as you can imagine, a book coming from those kind of folks about blurring the line between paganism and science was a bit controversial at the time, and his associations might have given him more cachet than his prose could carry by itself. And yes, the book's premise involves a doctor performing an unsolicited surgery in a teenage girl, and as shocking and horrific as this, my friends, is meant to be uncomfortable. It's meant to push boundaries. This is the genesis of modern horror. 4 out of 10, I'm telling you dude, back in the day it didn't take too much to scare the British. Why do we choose to wander into the unknown? Why was I so ready and willing to jump into this one? I was aware of Marky D from the Familiar book series for one. He's one of those avant-garde, hypertextual guys. If you know what that is, you're gonna learn today. You see, a book is in essence a perfect media format. But it's a medium that has been stagnant for quite a while as far as actual innovation is concerned. Yeah, there's ebooks and audiobooks, but honestly, when was the last time you read one that played with the format itself that was really out there, man? In short, I read this one because a wolf told me to. 7 out of 10, good enough as a gateway to the realms beyond. Did you know there's 6 main books and a 2-part spin-off novel? I'ma be honest, I wasn't aware this one was a book before it was a movie until 2020 when the English translation came out. It's at its core a coming-of-age story. That makes it the perfect gift for your 13-year-old who, just like Kiki, is about to enter a challenging part of their lives. But even as an adult, it makes for a cozy autumn read. I especially enjoyed Gigi's characterization. He's just a fun little guy, eagerly waiting for the next novel to be translated, or maybe I should just try to learn Japanese to get my black cat fix early. Yeah, it's that good. It's incentivizing me to learn and experience new things IRL. 10 out of 10. Big witch energy in this one. Mexican names by North American standards, or, well, Mexico is actually North America, isn't it? You know what I mean? Mexican names are long, right? The reason for that is that unlike, for example, American or Canadian names, Mexican names carry both parents' last names. Yeah, it's cool if you think about it. It's about honor, family, tradition, donuts and whatnot. That said, this book is gothic with a capital G. It can be kind of difficult to explain the appeal of this kind of stories without spoiling them, huh? In this case, say you've read the first 100 pages or so and think you got it figured out. This is a haunted house story. A very good one at that, but fairly by the numbers. You would be wrong though. Very wrong. This is, however, still a horror book, so it deals with some heavy stuff. Very human stuff. 8 out of 10, it's not a phase, Mom. If you've spent any time wandering the ivory halls of Dark Academia TikTok, this thing has probably been recommended to you before. Otherwise, hello, this is a book where all the characters suck, the ones that suck the least won't stick around until the end, and to top it off, it dwells in very dark places. So even if you chose to stick with Lovecraft, gave it a Great God Pan a chance, and even decided to read Mexican Gothic in spite of my warnings, The Secret History is not something you should experience if you aren't in the right state of mind. 7 out of 10, a little bit too mean for my taste, but I do see why people like it. Oh yeah, now that's the good shit. Ladies and gentlemen, Mary Stuart. Be warned that this is a bit more understated and contemplative than her usual stuff. It's not particularly long, that's not what I mean. It is, however, very slow-paced. Thornyhold is a gentle and thoughtful book. This time, our protagonist, Jelly, is more of an introvert, and we get to grow up with her. There's some romance and mystery, of course. It is a Mary Stuart novel, after all. And it's one of those books where the location is, by itself, a character. Plus there's a cat, his name is Hotch. He's not quite up there if we are talking about the GOAT cats in literature. In basketball terms, I'd say he's not quite LeBron or MJ, but definitely Hall of Fame worthy. More of a Kevin McHale than a Larry Bird, if you will. Are any of those guys cancelled? Oh, who cares? 7 out of 10, light, simple, fun. Mary Stuart was like 70 when she wrote this one, and that's like 70 in the 80s. It's like 120 when adjusted to inflation. Honestly, what more do you want? Okay, Mr. Internet Christian Crusader, you caught me. All this time I've been trying to get more acolytes for the Dark Lord. On the real though, even if you aren't into this new age spirituality stuff, this is very informative. It's a fun read, it deals with Wiccan practice and meditation, but also history. And as far as I can tell, it's the best book about actually making a book that I've ever read. For real, there's a step-by-step on how to craft a book from recycled material. And again, outside of the more spiritual stuff, there's a bunch of interesting stuff here. There's a whole section on herbs and spices, a bread recipe, an explanation on the significance of the moon in neo-pagan religions. The fact that this is the one non-fiction book in here should tell you how highly I rate it. I've been told that if you're actually into the spiritual side of it though, it's good for a beginner, you won't get too much out of it later on. 7 out of 10 if you ever wanted to become a real witch. Might as well start here, I guess.